Welcome back to yet another Buffalo Bills pregame. I hope you've missed us as much as we have missed you. Coming to you to talk about the 6-6 Bills getting ready to face this would be our probably biggest rival in our modern era of success is the Kansas City Chiefs. This is the New England Patriots versus the Indianapolis Colts, it would seem. The most exciting AFC teams facing off once again. And of course, what everyone is talking about, as they have all season, is Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Dan, do you have any thoughts, maybe demographically being a little bit closer to the people of interest in this story?
I can't say I have too much of an opinion. I think the whole, Travis Kelce plays better when Swift is there kind of got debunked on Sunday night because I believe she was there and he didn't play too good. So maybe it all means nothing. So we'll see.
Who knew that it didn't really mean that much to have one fan up there very, very far away from you? I'm really just kind of sick of the storyline in general and what Taylor Swift being such a big center of conversation for so much of the country. I'm like, what could get America off this? And what I really think we need is for Beyonce to have an affair with Josh Allen. First off, she owes Jay-Z more than one, so all's fair and more, and love and more. And Josh, maybe that's the hump breaker he needs. Maybe a quick affair, all over the news stories, suck the attention out of the room. Beyonce, if you're out there, I'm sure she's a fan of the Buffalo Bills pregame, so maybe throw Josh a bone. Also, I've heard mention of the news, a backup defensive lineman from the Bills, Von Miller, has been in the news. Not to get into the sordid details of the story, that is available all over the internet if you're interested. But do you see this being a huge effect on the Bills on the field?
I mean, it's hard to say, because obviously since Von Miller has returned from IR, he has not done basically anything. I believe he had something like one tackle or something crazy in how many games that he's played in. He's played in a lot of games to only have one tackle, especially considering the contract that he has. So on the field, I don't think this will make too much of a difference. I think Von Miller obviously seemed like he was doing some mentoring, but Rousseau and Epenesa definitely deserve those snaps that were Von Miller right now.
The production would certainly indicate that is the truth. An interesting statistic that I have been paying more and more attention to this season is that the strongest predictor of a team's success over the course of a season is what percentage of their salary cap they have on the field throughout the course of the season. And unfortunately, Von Miller represents a much higher percentage portion of that salary cap versus the production that he is putting forth. So he is not helping us in that regard whatsoever. And him being off the field doesn't help either. So the one thing that I am curious about the situation is that perhaps there is a way for us to get out from under his contract with less penalty given a criminal offense being involved. So perhaps in terms of the salary cap implications, that this changes the equation versus, oh my gosh, you came back from an injury and you're terrible now. So maybe that will free up some room cap space. But otherwise, if I never see him again in a Bills uniform, I'm not going to cry about it in the least. We have been off for 5 weeks, so sorry guys, Thanksgiving gets crazy. Since we last spoke, there has been some things with the Bills. Dorsey's been fired for the first time in his entire time. He was a Bills coach, if not at least since the Peterman fiasco. Calls for McDermott's job are being heard consistently. A new Bills fiasco that with 2 words, exactly what I'm talking about. 12 men. We have a new named mess up, flub from the Bills. And thoughts on all of that? Does anything stick out, or is there a through line that connects all these stories that's of interest to you?
To start with, the 12 men issue, that's something that simply just can't happen. Not in week 10 or whatever it was. Not that late into the season. Not with the whole way that unfolded. It was really sad that's how they lost, and it wasn't a great game to begin with. There was plenty of errors that game. And then they go and fire Dorsey, which, if they don't get the 12 men, they're probably winning that game, and they're probably not firing Dorsey. So it's interesting the way that panned out. It seems like we were getting back on track for a second against the Jets, and then for a moment against the Eagles, but now we're kind of back in where we were before. I do think Joe Brady is definitely an upgrade from Ken Dorsey, though.
At the very least, the opponents have less tape on him and his play calling, so it seems that we're getting away with more in terms of pre-snap movement and other stuff that we weren't getting advantages of before. So it has, the offense, at least at the eye test, is looking a lot better. So can't complain about that. Looking ahead to the next 5 weeks, we are on the outside edge of playoff contention for the wild card right now. Do you think potential run for the Bills in the playoffs this year is anything but fantasy?
I think it's definitely on the table right now. I think, with yesterday, it seems like a lot of the teams that the Bills needed to lose ended up losing. It was interesting. It's been a while since, as Bills fans, we've actually been rooting for other teams to lose. Usually we haven't been needing to do that the last few years. So that was interesting. But, if we can beat the Chiefs, I think that definitely, the playoff run is back on. Obviously, even with a win against the Chiefs, I don't know if they'll be in a playoff seed at that time. But I think it's definitely on the table. But it starts against Kansas City.
Well, conference losses are going to become biting us in the ass. So if we're going to have a chance, we need to stop piling those up for sure. But before we focus on the Chiefs real quick, the Dolphins in the division do stand in our way. Do you see them? Are they the real deal? Are they an obstacle for our success going forward? Is this season a fluke? Or could even the basement fall out on them this season still?
I think the Dolphins are definitely the real deal. They've had a full year with Tua with no injuries. Something that obviously, they played the Bills with their backup quarterback last year in the playoffs. I think the Dolphins are the real deal. With that being said, I think the Bills definitely have the talent to beat the Dolphins. I do think the division is out of reach at this point, unfortunately, but doesn't mean they can't match up in the playoffs well with the Dolphins.
All right, so to focus on the Chiefs, coming off a loss, not a team that loses 2 games in a row very often. What do you think about the Bills' chances in this game?
I think it's weird, the way the Bills season has gone, where they lose to all these bad teams, and then they play really competitively against these, some of the best teams in the league. Like last week against Philadelphia, I think they definitely should have won that game. Obviously, that doesn't matter. They should have won. If they didn't win, so
shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Right. But I think that just goes to show they can play with some of the best teams in the league. It just depends what Bills team shows up that week, and Kansas City looks like they've definitely been struggling, so they're absolutely beatable.
The Bills tend to play to the level of their opponent, especially down to the level of their opponent. They're playing a bad team sometimes. They'll get some of their worst efforts, and it feels like that's been the case for a long time. Taylor Swift, will she be a factor? Will she be there? Not worth talking about?
We might get more views, I think, if we talk about Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Well, and Beyonce, hey, bae, show up. Show Taylor what real off-field attention is like. If she's here for the game, it'll be a whole different conversation. I say the Bills are going to take a commanded victory, 34-24, show the Chiefs what a losing streak feels like. Any thoughts on who's going to win this game?
I'm going to go with the Bills, too.
Yeah, buddy.
I think I'll go... I feel like every time I pick it, always one team has 31 points, but I'm going to keep the streak going. I'm going to go 31-20 Bills.
All right.
I think that was the score of the game last year against the Chiefs. But
okay.
Anyway.
Well, history repeats itself as long as it's a Bills victory. That's all we care about here at Buffalo Bills Pregame. Thank you so much for our producer to provide us with the great reading material. Perhaps we'll get along to having that read aloud here soon. But the Legend of FitzMagic, which may or may not be for charity. That same executive producer, not a strong researcher, but he has other redeeming qualities, and once we figure out what they are, we'll be sure to let you know. Thank you so much for watching Buffalo Bills Pregame. We always reserve the right to come back whenever we want, but it will be no later than Week 18 to talk about the Dolphins game. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing. It means so much to us. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye! It feels like it's for charity. Do you need need this? Can I borrow it?
I really don't want you to lose that.
I promise. I'll
Okay.
take good care of it.